This is my second and last week working on the first pre-alpha release of ReignScape. So this week I focused on making ReignScape playable. That means I've solved as many issues as possible and I've worked a lot so any player can interact with the game easily. I would have loved to add some features like new buildings, but those are not essential and I ran out of time, so it's for the next version. My main focus was to improve the placement mechanic when you're building a structure. First things first, I wanted to bring a pre-visualization of the structure, so you can see how it will look when placed. This was quite easy to do. I used a viewport texture and a shader so it shows in green or red depending on if you can place it or not. But knowing if a structure is buildable or not was a lot of work. I started with the server side. Even if the client will check if you can place a structure and prohibit you from building where you shouldn't, the server still needs to check if your building request is possible to avoid bugs, but also because otherwise it will be very easy to hack the game. So I added a function to each structure which takes a point and returns true if you can place the structure at this point and false otherwise. For the trees, it's quite easy. I just return true if the point doesn't have a structure yet and false otherwise. But for the houses, as they are now 3 points wide, I need to check that every point is empty and also make all those points refer to the same structure. So I created a structure called extension, which is a very simple one containing only the position of the main structure it refers to. With this, I can create buildings as wide as I want. I then added some conditions to the buildable function so it also checks the surrounding points. And that's it for the server side. On the client side, I made the same check function for each structure and linked it with the pre-visualization so it appears in red and ignores mouse click if you can't build there. Next, I wanted to also prohibit the player from building if the slope of the terrain is too important. This is important because otherwise structures like houses can poke out of the ground and it doesn't look fine. So as before, I need a server side and a client side check. The difficulty is that those checks need the same terrain height values on the client and on the server side. And remember, my client is made in Godot with C# and the server with C. I used the Open Simplex noise algorithm to generate the terrain. My first idea was to use a C# implementation and a C implementation, and hopefully the values should be the same. But of course, it's not the case because the libraries are optimized in a different way. So I found a great solution, which is to only use the C library and create a GD native script in Godot with this C Open Simplex noise implementation in it. After a little bit of work, I got it up and running, and the values were exactly the same. So I linked the new library to the terrain generation. It was terrible at first, but with a little bit of tweaking and using multiple noise layers, I managed to retrieve a good enough terrain. I finished by adding the terrain height conditions, and now you can only build where you're supposed to. So this is all for this week. Nothing really exciting, but this work needed to be done for the game to be playable, and I'm glad I've done it. This first version is available to the Patreons. Check the link in the description. I think it is a good way for you to help me on this project and get regular content as I plan to publish monthly updates. Moreover, if you give more than the final price, you'll get a copy at release. Otherwise, I said the more involved ones would get free access to pre-alpha and free copies of ReignScape, so join the Discord and reach me there. Next week, I'll take a break from ReignScape and work on related projects. So I'll publish the next devlog in 2 weeks. My goal now is to add as many different structures as possible and balance the game so it turns into something really interesting to play. We'll see how it goes. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for the algorithm. Thank you for watching and see you soon.